Hey everyone, here's the deal. I've just recently woken up from my 5,000 year slumber and I need a quick, low-hanging fruit video to get back in the game. This website has changed quite a bit, so I guess the new thing are all these tier list videos and ranking videos. Now, I don't know anything about no tier list. I'm more traditional, so I'm perfectly happy with a good old-fashioned top 10 list. I still need a warm-up for all this, so it can't be something with a whole lot of choices, so maybe not like top 10 songs, but it has to be a list with at least 10 things in it, so no top 10 arrows. I like the red one. We're gonna go with the most generic list possible when it comes to DDR and do top 10 PARANOiAs. I don't know if anyone has done this list before. I'm not sure who would even be in the running to do this list. And I guess it's sort of a nostalgia trip too, since there hasn't been a new PARANOiA in like 10 years or so. Alright, time for the rules. Every top 10 video needs to have a fun little rules explanation section. First is the standard my opinion clause, meaning the songs are being judged simply on which ones I like the most. I'll be judging based on the song and the chart, and I won't be taking into account the X specials or anything, because I don't care about them that much. Finally, I'll only be considering real PARANOiA songs, so I'm sorry to dash your hopes if you were rooting for any of your favorites from that 20-minute list of like 1,000 PARANOiAs. Anyway, before we get to the top 10, I do have a few honorable mentions. There are 15 official PARANOiA songs, so that means the honorable mentions are the other 5 songs that aren't on the list. Okay, so it is just ranking all of them, but I still want to call it a top 10. Let's just get into it. Coming in at number infinity is PARANOiA Mac's Funky Bleep Mix. Here, have a listen. The song gets a 1 out of 10, and the chart gets an NA out of 10 since it was only ever in the original Beatmania. So yeah, it's terrible. Next on the list is a tie between 2 songs, PARANOiA and PARANOiA Mac's Dirty Mix. Game Boy version. Yeah, I got you there for a second, didn't I? No? Forget it. This is technically a DDR game, but on the Game Boy, like, it sucks. There's no way to do a proper rhythm game on the Game Boy. I'm not an engineer, but I've dabbled in chip tunes and stuff, and at least on the NES, the music is like tied to the frame rate, so unless the BPM of the song is divisible by 30, you have to do some sort of funky math and chop up certain notes to make it run smoothly. And I think something like that is going on here. I'll just let you hear it, and tell me if you feel like the song is running smoothly. It's hard to explain, but I know you can feel it. Am I making any sense? I don't know, I could have just made that whole thing up. But also the point is, what are you doing playing DDR on your freaking Game Boy Color? You could be playing Pokemon or Wario Land or something. Obviously, I'm just stalling for time right now since I don't want to talk about... Okay, you might think I'm slightly biased since this song did attempt to sentence my soul to eternal damnation, but I'm just gonna come out and say it. Uh-oh, hot take alert. This song is shit. It's one of the worst charts in the game. The music is PARANOiA, but with spooky sound effects over top of it. There's like a witch cackling in the distance. It is simply not fun to play. It's so bad, I made an entire 15-minute video making fun of it. I mean, no, that actually did happen. That was a true story. Let's move on. At number 11 we have PARANOiA Coquette Clean Mix. I'm gonna be honest, you guys, I'm not sure what makes the Dirty Mix any dirtier than the original, so I don't necessarily have a frame of reference on what makes the Clean Mix any cleaner than the Dirty Mix. The reason it misses out on the top 10 is because it's boring. They decided to go with this very loud, very 90s kick drum that completely drowns out and overpowers everything. Also, it keeps saying sound. The original just says it once, at the beginning. This one loops it over and over again. The song does not go anywhere, and then it feels like it's missing 8 or so measures at the end. It just ends out of nowhere. With the chart, there's no rhyme or reason to anything, which obviously is not uncommon back in the day, but it's super egregious in this case. And no, I'm not including the challenge chart, because that's cheating. You can't go back and change your answers after the fact and expect it to count for anything. Alright, we've made it to the list proper, so for this, I'm introducing some brand new top 10 technology that I think you're gonna like. And you better like it, because this took a while to put together. Coming in at number 10 is PARANOiA Max Dirty Mix. First of all, they didn't even try when they made the banner, just put down a default text box and tack the word Max on at the end. In DDRX, all of the PARANOiAs I think got this kind of facelift with a new font, and it looks nice and all, but where's the soul? I know banners are in the dustbin of history now, but it really was a sort of art form back then. I really have nothing else to say for this one. I'm gonna assume the original intent wasn't to make a sequel to PARANOiA, but rather a slight difficulty increase. The problem is there are way too many mistakes, double steps, weird flow errors, not a whole lot in terms of patterns. This song is totally forgettable. Nobody hops on DDR and out of the 1,000 songs says, you know what? I'm feeling PARANOiA Max Dirty Mix. If it were for nostalgia, you could just play the original PARANOiA. Oh, trivia time. In DDR second mix, if you use the roulette wheel and landed on PARANOiA Max, it would use the original PARANOiA's chart instead. And knew that one already, huh? Well, maybe you didn't know that this same system was implemented in DDRX, where randomly selecting the X Special version would give you the original PARANOiA X Special chart. That fact is way more fun and interesting than this song, is what I'm trying to say. At number 9, it's PARANOiA Rebirth. Not really much of a rebirth, considering it's the third PARANOiA released that year, not what you would call dead in any sense of the word. For its credit, the song does try to mix things up a bit, and it doesn't work. They wanted to go for this interesting chopped up beat, but it sounds more like the drummer just keeps messing up. What's even worse is the song is all out of order. No, that's not the Bring It On Down part. Bring It On Down is supposed to lead right into ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. However, when it does get to that section, it might be the best rendition out of all of them. Yeah, they should have called this the clean mix, cause that was clean. The chart is of course nothing unusual for a 20-year-old song. It's a shame that this one may have had the most potential out of all the old-timey PARANOiAs to be not bad. But yeah, it's still bad. At the time it came out, PARANOiA Eternal was definitely the furthest departure from the original formula we had seen. I honestly enjoyed the song for the most part, like in the chorus, or I guess you'd call it the chorus. I don't think drops were invented yet, and the parts with the wacky time signatures. However, some spots, especially at the beginning, take it a little overboard, and it just sounds like if you accidentally open the song in 3 different tabs at once. And this weird sample at the end, yeah, it could have been left off. As far as the chart goes, as long as you're aware of all the double steps, there are some good moments in here. You can tell as time goes by how more consistent patterns developed. Now, wait a minute, you may ask. I said at the beginning I'd only be judging the original charts, but didn't PARANOiA Eternal have a different chart when it was first added? You know, the one with the crazy long jackhammers? Well, to address that concern, 1, it's my list, and 2, as you may know, PARANOiA Eternal was a fan-submitted remix for a contest, and the old chart was that guy's design, not Bimani's, and I'm here to make fun of Bimani, not some random dude. We've made it to the one that started it all. No matter how many times PARANOiA is remixed or remade, or in the case of the first 5 PARANOiAs, tweaked by 1% and passed off as a new song, there's still something magical about the original. Remember, this was supposed to be the super hard secret boss song. Laughable now, but back then there was absolutely no standards for DDR charts. And even then, there are moments of brilliance that shine through. The song itself, well, it's time to take off those rose-tinted glasses. It's almost entirely samples, most likely from a bunch of those old Techno Essentials CDs. Think of it as the Unity asset store for 90s video game music. You know how I know this? Because I played Tony Hawk growing up. There is one original sample, trivia time by the way, but you have to listen pretty closely. Obviously we all recognize Somebody Scream or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Do It, but a lot of people may not realize the true scope of how much old DDR music is literally nothing but that. How about something like Think Ya Better Duh? Those voice lines aren't some b-boy Bimani brought in to do a rap, it's a track on a sample CD. I mean really, you have to be out of your mind if you think they were given any more than a fucking $20 iTunes gift card in terms of a music budget for DDR1. There's 11 songs, 3 originals that probably took Naoki a week to come up with, 7 weirdo old people songs, and also Butterfly. But that's just because they got lucky. Number 6 is PARANOiA Evolution, and the evolution in this case is now instead of that copy-pasted drum sample, we have more of a breakbeat kind of thing going on. It hits all the classic PARANOiA moments, and at 200 BPM, you can really feel the difference compared to the original. Of course it isn't perfect, but the chart has some great moments and a nice 8th note run typical of the memorable 9-footers of that era. But the best thing about this song is by far the ending. It's so over the top. You know what? I need to hear what that would sound like with some other songs. Okay guys, let's be real here. You're all thinking it. We're now on to the actual good songs. Right off the bat, when that huge hit opens up the song and you got that guy staring at you, you know they are messing around. He kind of reminds me of PS1 Sephiroth for some reason. At 300 BPM, sorry, 3/10 of 1000 BPM, it was the fastest PARANOiA to date, and also the song was more certainly focused on a more musical or melodic experience. You got these sweeping pads, the acid bass line, and even some semblance of a chord progression compared to, you know, a bunch of samples. It still says sound though, so technically it is still a PARANOiA song. The main thing holding it back is in fact the chart. For a good portion of the song, the steps don't really seem to go along with anything, and there's a ton of forced double steps, the kind that don't exactly seem like they were put in there on purpose. The stops are totally out of nowhere and they don't fall on the correct beats sometimes, or they'll last an odd amount of time. Take a look at this section. It seems lazy. Overall, in my opinion, it's just kind of a lack of care when it came to the chart, which is a shame because it's such a cool song. This was probably the toughest one for me to place since I'm assuming a lot of people really like this song. It's a fun chart with plenty of really good moments, like most of the middle section with a lot of great varied rhythms, and then some not so great things like the over-reliance on step jumps, which is probably how it managed a 17 rating. The main issue is that this song doesn't have time to hit all those aforementioned classic Paranoia moments. PARANOiA mix comes from the DDR second mix soundtrack released in celebration of X3, along with a few others you'll definitely recognize. The original song is 4 minutes long, and there's no effort taken to cut the song in any way, so it just ends halfway through. It's so awkward because there's this huge 16th note stream right when the song randomly gets super quiet, and it's just a weird place to end the song, and you hear this cool breakdown section, but the music's fading out. It's like, come back. It's like waking up from a lucid dream. Number 3 is Paranoia Revolution. Bemani went all out on every aspect of this song's design, and it really shows. It's a very quintessentially DDR song. The Paranoia guy doesn't even look pissed off like usual, now he's just filled with determination. Also, quick tangent, I always thought this was some sort of weird shoulder pad thing. It's his fist. Well, first thing we have to talk about is the video, because it's so fitting. You got the breakdown section with the second mix cab as the classic sound effects play that brings one tear to every true DDR gamer's eye, mine included. But my favorite thing is a little later in the video. I don't know if there's a category for best stop in the game, but it has to be right as the shutter thing closes. It's such a spark of brilliance. DDR really does not have enough fourth wall breaking moments. While this is easily the best sounding Paranoia, the chart, as you may know, leaves much to be desired. This was still back when level 19 charts were more of a novelty, and it's difficult for pretty much all the wrong reasons. It would have been better, in my opinion, if the challenge chart literally didn't exist. The good part is we can pretend it doesn't exist because everyone's attention is obviously focused on the expert chart, because it's full of wacky references to all the past boss songs. Now, don't get me wrong, that's awesome, but could you really tell me with a straight face that you can recognize more than maybe like 2 or 3, especially in the middle of playing it? No, come on. The enjoyment really comes from just knowing they're in there, not necessarily being able to point them out. And there's actually one more reference that probably goes over most people's heads, but it's in there if you listen closely. Now, while the song is kinda tailored around some of the references, most of the time the chart and the song are doing two completely different things. The main issue is at the end of the day, they're just callbacks to other songs. And the thing is, a bunch of cheeky references will never feel as exciting as the original songs themselves. You can wax nostalgic and harken back to some long-lost golden moment in time, or you could have been there when it happened. I mean, there's 2 songs left, and you already know what they are, so let's just get on with the end of the list. Yeah, I know a couple minutes ago I said to take off the rose-tinted glasses. Well, put them back on. For a DDR in its prime, Paranoia Survivor was the final stage exclusive song. And this time they were serious. So serious, in fact, that they even capitalized the I. That's right, no funny business. I personally tried over and over as a kid, but I could never beat this song. I'd always get a cramp halfway through. Oddly enough, when DDR switched to the X scale, it was rated a 14, and I know there was a gap that needed to be filled there at the time, but like, no way. The atmosphere is amazing, almost mysterious and droning on constantly, pushing you through a non-stop barrage of notes in every combination imaginable. And I said Paranoia Revolution had a cool video? Well, guess what? This song has an even cooler video, where you get to see the pieces of the arcade cabinet come together like a big Lego Millennium Falcon, which I'm fairly certain isn't really how they're constructed. This is also DDR gimmicks at their most tasteful and reserved. You pretty much always know when they're coming, either because you've played the song 100 times, or you can assume those 16th notes aren't going to be coming at you full speed. But, as you all know, there was a much more hidden track waiting on that machine. If you managed to get a double A, which is what we used to call a full combo, on PARANOiA Rebirth and then PARANOiA Evolution, on the final stage you'd be greeted with a new song. PARANOiA Survivor would be upgraded to PARANOiA Survivor Max. I mean, it's obvious now, they left a huge space on the banner for the Max part. With the increase to just 20 BPM, the mood is suddenly shifted, now with a haunting urgency and excitement, the previous manageable patterns driving players to exhaustion that much faster. And with one final section added to the end as a sort of coda for the entire series up to that point. Survivor really was supposed to be the final PARANOiA. And that's according to Naoki, I didn't make that one up. Now, all these things are great and historic and all that, but obviously there's one more chapter to this story. Waiting for you at the end of the Legend Road was the hardest chart in the game. I don't even think Legend of Max was the song everyone wanted to play. I think Max 300 still had more of an impact in that regard. But there's no denying PARANOiA Survivor Max Oni was the defining song for DDR Extreme. And it came at the perfect time when a lot of people were beginning to truly master the game. Not me, obviously, I couldn't even touch this song. It took everything from the heavy chart and turned it up to 10, because, you know, that's as high as it went back then. The patterns are more brutal, the streams are longer, and it's capped off by an ending run that's damn near close to perfection. In fact, let's just watch it one more time. Yeah, those were the days. But, sadly, I think it needs to be said, PARANOiA should be left in the past. Sure, they can all stay in their little folders in the current game, but hopefully we won't be seeing any new PARANOiAs from now on. When you constantly look back and feel the need to repackage older songs or reference older songs, it starts to get old. We've had the Groove Radar specials, and then the X specials, and then the entire concept behind X3 versus Second Mix, and at that point it's too late. You've stagnated. That's why the best decision they could have made was to start over, and it worked. We have all new iconic songs and charts and memories, moments that we can one day reminisce about in top 10 videos on YouTube, but that won't need to be constantly rehashed and regurgitated by Bimani themselves. I mean, think about it. Imagine if instead of Endymion we got PARANOiA Endymion. It would suck ass. Now, I didn't think this video would get so sentimental by the end, but here we are. If you somehow made it to this point, I want to truly thank you. So for next time, if you think top 10 lists are cliche and boring, let me know. If top 10 lists are like crack and you just need more of them, also let me know. Either way, you can boost my engagement numbers by having a heated debate in the comments. I'll see you next time.